3 years ago, the latest great wrestling war began on American soil. Two companies pit their finest soldiers against the other on Wednesday nights to determine which promotion would earn the bigger share of the wrestling viewing audience. However, in the years that have passed since the launch of All Elite Wrestling, the war with WWE has evolved. Now the two promotions don't spend nearly as much time counter-programming each other as they did in the early days of the Wednesday night war, but the war itself is still very much alive. With AEW continuing to gain traction and WWE continuing to sabotage their own public perception within the wrestling community, there have still been a number of moments where the two companies have been at odds with each other. 10 of them, in fact. Just enough for a list. Huh. How convenient's that? I'm Pete, hailing from partsFUNknown, and these are 10 times WWE and AEW went to war in 2021. And before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you can get more listy goodness, and also because I'm feeling ill and it'll make me feel better. Just subscribe and then I'll feel better. Please. Subscribe, thanks. Number 10. Cody Rhodes loves a sledgehammer. What happened to Cody Rhodes? At the start of AEW Dynamite, he was the most beloved babyface in the company. Now, well, he's the furthest thing from it. Was it his divisive rah-rah America promo that did it in? Or perhaps has his status as the former WWE guy with a chip on his shoulder been taken over by so many talents over the past 2 years that it no longer makes him feel special? You be the judge. As for Cody, however, he still loves to point out his history with the Fed, making a pretty on-the-nose reference to Triple H on the December 1st episode of Dynamite. Cody looked under the ring for some handy-dandy plunder and emerged with a sledgehammer. What could that possibly be in reference to? Cody, of course, has been called the Triple H of AEW very often, with some fans feeling that he hasn't put over new talent akin to the dreaded run of Hunter the Terrible from yesteryear, despite losing to MJF, Darby Allin, Malachi Black, the list goes on and on. Cody was quick to toss the sledgehammer aside in favor of a golden shovel, as he yelled that he was going to lean in to the reaction he was getting from the fans. I don't know what that could have been referencing either. Number 9. Death by 1,000 references. It feels weird to put one specific jab in a promo on this list, as that would hardly constitute a war, but when it happens frequently all year, enough jabs become a talking point. Granted, many of these moments have come from AEW, such as Christian Cage telling Adam Cole that he should be used to losing on Wednesdays, a direct shot at his role in NXT, or Don Callis mocking WWE's no leg slapping policy. But from time to time, WWE would send jabs back the other way. Drew McIntyre made light of AEW's infamously botched exploding barbed wire death match from Revolution. Oh god, let us all please forget that moment. Telling MVP on Raw that when you make a promise you can't deliver on, sparks fly and people get disappointed. Moments like this happen regularly, and while some of it is fairly trivial and should not be taken so seriously by the fans, this is also part of the fun of having a wrestling war. Hell, Shawn Michaels slapped a WCW sticker on a little person dressed as Bret Hart in 1997, and we certainly haven't crossed that line yet. Number 8. Christian Cage signs with AEW. 1 year after his best friend Edge made a miraculous return from retirement at the Royal Rumble, Christian did the same, wrestling his first match in 7 years at the 2021 Rumble event. He looked as good as he ever had, and he watched as Edge won the Rumble. Surely this incredible return could play into a fantastic storyline for WrestleMania. His best friend in the main event, unfinished business with Big E over the Intercontinental Championship, the possibilities were endless. That is why it was so bizarre to find out that WWE had no plans for Christian after his return. What? One of the best in-ring performers of his generation with a built-in story to your hottest period of the year? No interest? Well, don't mind if I do, said Tony Khan, who welcomed the rechristened Christian Cage, try saying that 5 times fast, at Revolution 2021. Christian has continued to show why WWE was foolish to pass on him, wrestling great matches regularly, including the main event of All Out against Kenny Omega for the AEW World Championship. Number 7. This business isn't big enough for two Khans. For years, people said wrestling was run by con men. Now it's just run by Khan men. While it sounds nutty now, WWE at one point made an effort to form a working relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling as a way to keep Daniel Bryan in the company. This relationship never materialized, of course, because sharing with WWE sounds like about as much fun as shaving my taint with a cactus. WWE President Nick Khan was reportedly at the helm of this, and AEW President Tony Khan made sure to let Nick know that there would only be one Khan with a relationship with New Japan. Many of Tony's Twitter speeches have made light about battles with WWE, but this one was certainly the most direct, as he told Nick that there was only room for one Khan in pro wrestling. Naturally, WWE and Nick Khan would not return fire at AEW, but AEW is the one with New Japan talent on their shows. Although, can you imagine Tomohiro Ishii versus Walter at an NXT takeover? Dear God in heaven. Number 6. WWE cuts him, AEW signs him. Boy, WWE sure released a lot of talent in 2021, didn't they? That list is about 80 people long, and that's just from this year, let alone the dozens gone in 2020 as well. WWE made a point to sign as much talent as possible when AEW launched, because it doesn't matter if they want to play with this toy as long as no one else can play with them either. Sure enough, WWE's releases made the wrestling free agent pool a dealer's choice situation for AEW, with Tony Khan getting to choose which stars he would like to bring on board. Enter the likes of Andrade El Idolo, Malachi Black, Ruby Soho, and Bobby Fish, all of whom have been given the opportunities to put on fantastic matches that they weren't given on the WWE main roster. For years, the theory was you didn't want to sign too many of WWE's castaways, but that applies much more to Val Venus beating Christopher Daniels in 2010 TNA, and less to world-class talent that should never be let go over f***ing budget cuts. Number 5. AEW New Year's Smash vs NXT New Year's Evil. The last real example of NXT and AEW Dynamite putting on big specials opposite each other came on the first episodes of 2021. To kick off the new year, AEW put on New Year's Smash while NXT aired their New Year's Evil special. Both shows had major matches on their cards. Dynamite featured a 5-star main event as Kenny Omega defended the AEW title against Rey Fenix, which only served as the appetizer for the AEW debuts of Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows. Meanwhile on NXT, Raquel Gonzalez and Rhea Ripley put on an outstanding last woman standing match, which signaled the end of Ripley's time on the brand. The main event was a rematch of the classic Finn Balor vs Kyle O'Reilly match from TakeOver 31, and overall this made for one incredible night of wrestling. The Wednesday Night War had basically been decided, but there was still plenty of fight left in NXT at this point, although it would only be a few more months before NXT was moved to Tuesdays, officially ending the Wednesday Night War and leading to the beginning of NXT 2.0, which is, well, you know. Number 4. Eddie Kingston shoots on WWE. Eddie Kingston is about as outspoken as they come in wrestling. He is also about as good of a talker as they come in wrestling. Put those two together, and you have the recipe for some very spicy post-show comments, which is exactly what we got following Saturday Night Dynamite on June 26th. Following the main event, Kingston stood in the ring with Jungle Boy, Christian Cage, and Penta El Zero Miedo. What started as a fairly by-the-numbers send the crowd home happy promo turned into a rallying cry for the AEW fans, as Kingston said, "The competition sometimes doesn't want to hear their fans." He said AEW listens to their fans and everyone in the locker room isn't doing this for a paycheck, they're doing it for the people and to bust their asses for the love of pro wrestling. He said you won't see matches like Jungle Boy versus Kenny Omega, legends who are respected and the heart of the AEW locker room on the other channel. You can choose to like this style of promo or not, but there is no doubt that it was effective as the entire crowd at Daily's Place stood on their feet and chanted AEW before going home happy. You gotta play to your audience, and this is what that audience pays to see. Number 3, The Dragon and the Boom. We had an entry on this list already for stars that WWE released who showed up in AEW. There is no doubt how valuable they all are in their current roles. However, it speaks volumes when two of the absolute top performers in the wrestling business are desired by both WWE and AEW, and they choose to leave the land of sports entertainment. This is exactly what happened with Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole. Danielson walked away from WWE after over 10 years with the company, and has said many times that he loved working for the company. Yet still, he wanted to go to AEW because it was where wrestling was at its best. With Adam Cole, WWE somehow let his contract expire by accident, and after NXT TakeOver 36, Cole had decided that he was going to walk away after 4 years with the promotion in favor of rejoining his friends in AEW. The craziest thing, both of these debuts happened on the same night. In case you need a reminder, here is Ollie's reaction. No! It is one thing to be cut and find success elsewhere, but it is something else entirely to be the place top talent are walking away from WWE for. Number 2, a less famous Miz. Poor Miz, catching stray bullets from promos on a completely different show. This probably could have been included in the entry about all the other jabs with AEW and WWE have taken at each other, but oh, this is just so saucy, it deserves its own spot. You won't find two wrestlers with acid tongues more than CM Punk and MJF, and when you point them at each other with microphones in their hands, you better believe they are going to spit some venom. In their recent promo duel on Dynamite, both men took shots at each other using WWE as the bullets. MJF threw countless insults at his adversary, calling him PG Punk and saying he was second best to the You Can't See Me man and the King of Kings. However, the biggest moment of the promo came early on, with Punk saying MJF wasn't revolutionary, he is just a less famous Miz. He can't say that. Can he say that? The line even broke the threshold of WWE, with Edge making light of it on Raw, saying people on the other show are using Miz's name to get a cheap reaction. Some shots are unnecessary, but this is good old-fashioned pro wrestling, with the shots on both shows fueling the respective stories they are involved in. But goodness, what did Miz do? And number 1, the Rampage buy-in versus Super SmackDown. Following the end of the Wednesday Night War, it seemed like it would be a considerable amount of time before WWE and AEW went head-to-head again. Tony Khan has been adamant that he won't compete with Raw because he won't run against the NFL on Mondays. But what about Fridays? Well, with AEW Rampage making its debut in August, SmackDown was merely sitting at the next lunch table over in the cafeteria, and it would only take one of them to bump the other's tray to start a fight. On October 15th, WWE aired Super SmackDown, featuring an extra half hour of TV, which eats into Rampage. Meanwhile, AEW pulled out all the stops, putting on a Rampage buy-in lasting an extra hour and featuring Tempest Wet Dream of Bryan Danielson versus Minoru Suzuki, which was awesome. This was the biggest head-to-head wrestling event in years. Even if SmackDown and Rampage were only competing on TV for a half hour, Tony Khan threw down the gauntlet for the night, and while Rampage did not come close to beating SmackDown in overall viewership, they were able to win the night in the key demos. Make what you will of the ratings and the viewership, but this was the biggest example to date of WWE and AEW going to war with one another, and it certainly doesn't feel like the last time either. So that was the list. Were there any moments that we missed from when WWE and AEW went to war in 2021? And also check out, there is going to be a bunch more lists coming in December, so make sure you subscribe and enable notifications for that, because there's going to be lots of content. It's going to be good. It's going to be good for you, going to be good for us, it's going to be good. It's just good. Bye. Jam that jam.